be live on YouTube. Thank you for bearing with me. I come straight out of joining someone else's live into this live, and I'm going to go back to watch the replay of the end. But I wanted to highlight mental health awareness today because my own connection with mental health and my own experience. So I thought I'd share that with you as part of my accountability for the Gabby Bernstein. I'm sharing my transformational story and how meditation has helped me with my mental health. So firstly, I want to say I'm really grateful for the people that inspire me and that help me to be a better person. But I also want to reach out to anyone that is feeling depressed, anyone that's anxious, suffering from overwhelmment, because I get you. I've been there, and if you see me looking up and down, I'm live on YouTube, which is streaming to Facebook, and on Instagram down here. So please, needs to be why I'm like this. That's why. Yeah, I suffered myself with depression, and my mum was manic depressive. So as a child growing up, that whether you think about it as the nurture nature, I was a witness to someone who was suffering from depression. I was living in a home with someone who was suffering from mental illness and who was in and out of hospital for many, many years. So it was something I, as a child, didn't understand. I was afraid of. She had a very hard life because there was a lot of stigma around mental health. She didn't have the same help. This is back in the sort of the 70s, 80s, where there was lots and lots of you were put in the hospital that's near me, and it's a bad rap, but when you think of a mental institution and a mental hospital, it wasn't a very nice place to go visit my mum. And I'm lucky that I had some really loving people around me to help me through that, but it still affected me. It's still affecting my mental health. And one of the things it affected is my own story of how I viewed my own mental health. I didn't realise that I was imprinting and picking up those stories until later on in life, when I myself suffered from depression and had a year off of college. I repeated a whole year of college and university because I was finding it hard to get out of bed. And I had those moments where you just didn't want to. And I at 16, I'd come through suffering from what they call panic attacks, thinking that it was an eating disorder or borderline. I'd get really nervous and I couldn't eat. We'd go out for a meal and I just couldn't eat. The anxiety, that feeling, that emotion in my stomach. Now, fast forward into my life now, I understand how the emotion is, that's our sacrum and our emotional centre, and how that affected me. It was like my little body's barometer of what was going on, where I was nervous, picking up on energies and my environment. I was very sensitive to my environment, empathic about that. That feeling you get when you walk into a room and you are on edge, or you feel that people are on edge, or you pick up on how people they're not saying how they're feeling. Adults, when you're a child, you kind of think, oh, but you energies anyway. So that's the fast forwarding. But back then I didn't know that. I just would go out. I think when I look back now, it must have been quite hilarious. So I assume that whenever I'd go out, maybe clubbing with my friends in my teens, we'd go out somewhere and I'd get really anxious and really nervous and panicky, and I'd be throwing up at the side of the road. Now, I'm assuming, or we'd be going into a nightclub and I'd be throwing up. Most people would have been assumed that I was drunk or I was on something, I was taking something, and that was the effect. I'd overdone it, but it wasn't. It was my nerves. So it kind of, the stigma there, I got away with. They just assumed I drank too much, when actually I never really drank anyway. I couldn't drink because it's the nerves. I just wouldn't like that feeling in my body. But I want to take away, and I wanted to talk about today, the stigma. People don't talk about it. So I thought I'd share my story with you. One, my mum, and growing up as a child, that was something that I think I imprinted on, I picked up, and later in life had bouts of depression. And two, what I do and why I do meditation is because it helps me to deal with my own mental health. Our mental health and our mental, what's the word? It's escaping me. Nutrition and what we feed our souls with is the word that comes to mind instead of the one I was trying to think of. What we feed our soul with the information that's around us, with the people that are around us, I feel is really important, and it's why I do what I do, to help others that may be in that situation, and because in my own life I need to do it, not needing as in like it's something that helps me with my daily life. I may, you may think of me as being really positive with all the gratitude journals and the vision boards and how and why I do it, and mindset being important. But the reason that mindset is so important to me is because in my life I've experienced depression and anxiety and complete overwhelm. So I know that I've been there. I don't want to go there again. I didn't like that feeling of being there. So I do things in my life that help me to not be there and that help with my stress or anxiety. So yes, I just thought I would speak out and say, I get this. I remember being a child and not quite understanding what was happening with my mum when she had maybe attempted suicide on occasions. And then later as a teen, when I was what they call now, and it's recognised as self-harm. But at the time, and as a teenager, I just thought I felt so low that I wanted to die. So when I was slashing wrists and then cleaning them up, I didn't understand that for me, which is very much a power, taking back our own power and a self-expression and a need to express that emotion that I understand as an adult and someone that deals with mindfulness, I know now that that was my way of crying for help. People were telling me this at the time, but I was like, no, in my mind, in my story dialogue that was going on then, as that 16-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl, I think I was 14, 15 at that time, I was struggling to express these emotions. And when we express things, when we've got this, and now, as I say, looking back and where I am from my perspective later and where I am in my own journey, I see that energy had to have a focus to go. I needed to express that to keep that channel moving. And I did that. Pain was expressed through physical pain. And often with girls, this is the case, or with boys that might go and hit a wall and let that out. It's important not to keep it all in, to expressing that from ourselves. But obviously, those ways of expressing are not constructive ways of expressing. And I know that now, and obviously knew that then and haven't done that for a long time. But I know that mindset. I've been in that mindset. So I understand when someone said to me recently, you don't understand, how can you're so positive for you, because they see where I am now and not where I was then. So I've come a long way, and I'm grateful for who I am and those experiences, because they've taught me, I've learned a different way through people that inspired me, such as Louise L. Hay, whose birthday it was recently. And one of the reasons I love her so much, because that was when I started to wake up. At that time, I had an amazing friend, Zena and Dawn, and I went with them to see this guy speak, a speaker, like at 16. We weren't going to the clubs. We were going to, in fact, this funny little story to share. I was out with my partner, who I'm now a partner with again, although we'd broken up in between then. And I had to get back to go to this thing. It's like, what do you want to go back to? It's like, no gig, you've got no tickets for seeing something that you paid for. I was going to view these videos that we would view, and it was the guy named Miraji who talked about spirituality and the self and being an aspirant. And it was important to me. So even then, I knew that this was important to have this thing for me. He's like, oh, okay, we'll go back. Well, we're out. Why can't you just let it go? Because it was important to me. And I knew it was important to me, the self, the me, knowing about the inner being. And now that's why I teach people to connect to their creative self. Because when I think back then, it was that awakening moment for me, that and Louise L. Hay and learning about mindset, which actually nowadays is quite commonplace. Most people know scientifically the effects of how meditation and our mindset affects physiologically and the chemicals in our brain. So that, coupled with having a fabulous doctor from the Gravesend Medical Centre back then, who didn't just throw a load of pills at me, not that I weren't given them by other doctors, of antidepressants later as a teen as well, but it suggested exercise and movement, and how that affected me, that it would give me those endorphins in my brain that I needed. And I'm so glad, because I've seen so many people that went down the medical route, not that that's not right for them, but I think that in combination with things, and I'm not a medical physician, so I wouldn't be wanting to give any advice to that, but for me, that was the right choice. It helped me. Having pills to help me sleep at night just made me sleepy in the day, because I would take them and I'd still get up and I still couldn't sleep. So it wasn't right for me. But what was right for me was the mindset, was knowing, actually, this is a story, this is a dialogue. Although I didn't have that awareness at the time, it was more knowing, an inner knowing, an instinct, because that instinct has always been present in my life, and it helped me to trust that and know that this is right for me, even in those dark moments. And I want to talk a little bit on you, and I'm sure that this might be you, it might not be, but even in those dark moments, in relationships, breakups, in where the depression might, that big black cloud might have come over me and filled me, in those moments of darkness, especially relevant to what's going on now in the world, I always had this feeling deep inside, there's that light that shines brighter in those dark moments, that inner voice, that, for want of a better feeling, for me it's the higher self, it's the inner realms, it's the being, it's my authentic self, the creative side of me. You might call it your soul, whatever it is, your little conscience, but it told me it's going to be okay. You know it'll be okay. There's a light at that end of that tunnel. There was that lifeline for me of my heart calling that I've always been connected to. So I listened. I listened when things like Louise L. Hay come to me, and I started to try and speak affirmations, speaking them even when I wasn't feeling them, but knowing there was another way. Learning to meditate, for me back then, was just learning to breathe and breath work. And I want to do this as it is Mental Health Day. I often do this on my page. I want you to have a moment just to stop and just be, because sometimes when we have got busy lives going on, we don't actually realise how stressed we are, or how overwhelmed we are, or our anxiety. But I want to get you to allow yourself, give yourself permission to take a minute or so. And I'm not going to do this too long. I know lots of my videos are quite long. Just breathe, because I want to blow out of the water. I love someone called Emily Fletcher who says, these are her words, although I'm paraphrasing, about how we are in a society, I'll be happy when, and we always put stuff off. So yeah, I know I need to meditate. I know meditation is good for us, what it needs to do. Or the other thing that comes from her is to be a meditation activist, which I'm there too. Meditation isn't so much about, for me anyway, although it can be, the melastic, sitting cross-legged, sitting and omming, and I do that. It needs to be, for those of you that know me. It's also about just being, just breathing, just pausing. And that doesn't mean that when you clear your mind, when we sit still, our mind will start to go. You'll start to have thoughts coming. The thoughts will still come across. I'm just going to plug this in. I've got the phone, as I said, down here with Instagram, and it's just popped up. So hopefully this won't tip. There we go. So you don't get cut off. It's about being present and listening to those dialogues, so you're aware that they are a dialogue. So those thoughts that come up. Louisa Hay, I've often followed her meditation. Ooh, we're going again. I'm going to it's the phone because it's got the plugs in down there. The beauty of live is I'm just running anxiety. So say I was going to a job interview, for example, I'm walking to do work experience or something back then, I would have said to I'd be getting those butterfly feelings, those nervous feelings, which is quite natural. Some people can tap into that thing, the fear, the excitement, and switch it and reframe it. But I didn't know about reframing or choosing a different thought again, which is something I would say to do now that Gabby Bernstein talks about. For me, it was, okay, that's a thought that's coming up. It was learning to hear that those thoughts are feelings. And now we know with EEG readings that, and I will go just a little bit into the science to digress a little bit, that we have a field, a toric field around our body within spirituality, that it's measurable. It's not just mumbo jumbo, airy fairy stuff. It's measurable. Just as we can pick up ECG, which measures the brain. EEG measures the electromagnetism that's coming off your body. So there's food for thought, and research is being done into this. And I, as a HeartMath ambassador and training to be emissary, I'm really, really into how that works and the science behind that spirituality. But the thoughts that are coming. So if you think of it, and this is the way I'm going to give you a creative visualization of thinking about it. Think of your thoughts like clouds. They represent clouds to me, that cloud bubble. And you've got the brown, dark cloud, for want of a better light and dark. I'm going to give it that, so though my own personal view of that has slightly changed over the years. But say you've got this dark grey cloud that represents those darker emotions of feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling anxious. And then you've got the lighter sort of cloud. And you're allowing that cloud that's around you, those are what you're setting your emotional tuning dial to. So you're picking up that cloud when you're in that feeling of being low, depressed, and that story. It's a vibration. It literally is a vibration. That's the science of our world and the universe. Although, as I say, take what I say, what resonates with you, take away what doesn't. You don't have to believe me. I'm not here to change your beliefs. And I'm very aware that different people have different beliefs. But if you're interested, look at the science of that. So you're picking up that dial. So use it as an imagination analogy, if you wish. And you're tuning to that vibration of that cloud. When you're tuned in to that cloud, when you're in that mindset. So when you're in what we now modern world would say like a growth mindset, the other mindset, those positive gratitude and power thoughts and higher, more different frequency, then we're tuned into the other dial. So when I say things like Louise Hay would say, I'm just running anxiety, I see it now as I'm just tuned into that cloud. I just need to retune. What can I do to reset what I'm feeling? It gives you the power back. The point of power in the moment for you is knowing that those thoughts are not you. When you sit and meditate, you become aware of your being. You become aware of those thoughts, but you are not those thoughts. You are the one observing those thoughts, that higher self, that higher being, your authentic you. So that gives you more power. In a moment where you're having those feelings coming up, feeling powerless. So just by knowing that is enough sometimes. And I'm not saying in the knowing that you can switch it, but having the awareness, having that breath, taking those times in the calm, in the storm, which we're about to do in a moment, will give you the breathing space that sometimes you may need. to get out of the head and the clouds, reset, reframe, refocus, repurpose, replenish back here to the heart, to the higher self, to the soul, whatever your beliefs aligned with, and back into feeling a bit better. Now, I know I've simplified all of that, and I'm talking personally from my own experience. So there are lots and lots of research and studies out there, but I wanted to highlight and take away the stigma. This is something I suffered from. There were times when I couldn't get out of bed. There are times still. This morning I overslept, and I didn't make it to doing the timing for the meditation. I recorded it live I'm doing like a 30-day meditation challenge, and I thought, no, I'm not going to berate myself. I'm not going to get angry with myself, and I'm not going to think I'm feeling depressed. I needed sleep. There are times when I might have wanted to stay in the bed because I was feeling depressed, but there are things I do now to help me. My diet is very different. I eat very different, and I'm aware from the wonderful holistic people that I have interviewed for Wellness Wednesday of how our physiology is affected by the food that we've been put into our bodies. Also, from the spiritual standpoint, being vegan, I'm not saying that you are, I've got a whole separate blog on why I've become vegan. I feel better when I'm eating off the light, or vegetables, plant-based. So things that make me feel good, that would be one. That's something that makes me personally feel good. Two, meditating and getting my mindset in the right frame in the morning, which is why I do it in the morning. If not, movement. From that doctor I mentioned that I'm really grateful for, I know that when I move my body and I move that energy flow and shift, it helped me to snap out of it, so to speak, as someone needs to be, but it helped me. It was my thing. But there are times when it is just a matter of your will and knowing your own body cycles. Now, I follow the cycles of the moon and do lots of moon meditations, as you probably know on my page. But knowing my own times, knowing my own cycles when I'm on my period, before my period, and that there are times in my month, that whole cycle systems, being in tune with my body and how it works helps me in order to know that actually, if today, it's not because I'm feeling depressed, I'm not going down that old story again, but my body needs some rest today. I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to have a bath. I'm going to have a foot soak, or I'm going to do something for me. Oh, I'm craving this because of that. But you don't switch back into those stories or those thoughts, those feelings that we pick up on, that dialogue and mental torrent that goes on. It's choosing again and changing those patterns, and they are patterns that we learn, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, with my mum, watching her and viewing, and that was the norm. It picked up subconsciously that is the norm, to have this moments of seeing someone who was staring off into space, that was a bit not quite with it, not quite here, in the present moment. So meditation gives me that. It reminds me of that. It reminds me to be present when I too sometimes can do that. So, and to live and to be grateful for every moment feels good. Also has this wonderful scientific effect on my body, but it feels good. It's why I do, and why I am such a big fan of how mindset can change. So for the people out there that may be thinking, it's easy for you, you've done that. I did it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it takes practice, it takes time, but it is a choice. It's a choice in that second of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to stand up and get up. I'm going to go and maybe go downstairs and move my body. Just start with that. As Mel Robbins would say, who suffers also from depression, or she says the same. She has this recently, I think. Or, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just going to take a breath. In that moment that might be overwhelming you. Or for me, one of the things I do with being the mum and the mums out there is to go out and take my 30 seconds for me to say, right now, I need a moment to just reset and just breathe, which I often do live with you guys to get you and remind you, to prompt you to do the same. Because lots happening, and I'm not saying that world isn't, but I want you to maybe think of those things, those situations as the cloud, and remember, I'm going to tune to this. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you're not watching the newsreel, because when you watch the newsreel you feel bad. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It means you care about how you feel. And I'm really, really, as in Abraham Hicks' word, I want you to care about how you feel, because how you feel has a bearing on your body. It creates things in your body. Go look up the studies. But also that has ripples. It sends ripples not just in your own life, but the lives of those around you, in how you want to be. And think about how you want to be. I'm sure most people would say, I want to be happy. But what does happy mean? Well, I think happy to me, and different people would say different things depending on their life experience. You will have different perceptions. And this is how my perception has grown, which is why I've shared my story of what's truly important and being happy to me. But happiness is awareness. It's taking the breath. It's being present and knowing and being thankful for this moment, that one breath. I'm alive. I feel alive. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this beautiful, amazing day in this moment, whatever it is. So I hope that my story has helped you in some way, shape or form. If you know someone that's suffering from depression and you feel they would benefit, please share. And as of the Facebook algorithms and stuff, if you like things, you'll see more of the post. You can subscribe. For those of you on my YouTube channel or not aware that I have a YouTube channel, it's at Love Authentic Me on YouTube, or at Tracer Jande over on Instagram for IGTV. Thank you for your time. Thank you for viewing and being with me. We're not live down there. My love and blessings. Let's take the stigma away from this. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's not judge ourselves when we're feeling thoughts that we're not the happiest, or we're not. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to be Miss Positivity. It's more about understanding yourself, understanding your circumstance, and how you're feeling, your cycles, your own self, and connecting. As I say in this month's challenges, connecting to ourselves and to others, and having that, being able to reach out and speak to people. I had those inspirational people inspiring me to follow the meditations, to do the affirmations, to learn about those things. I had people. I was there for my mum without knowing it, as an incentive to be, to keep going. And I had people around me when I dealt with the times that I felt really low. And when I think back now, I think it might have been over, oh, I didn't get that thing in. It was totally insignificant thing to me, but it was really important at the time because of how I was feeling and how my hormones were changing going through teens, and knowing and having tools to cope is what I hope I can help people do, to get out of their heads and their heart, whether it's drawing, whether it's painting, or just learning to be present and take a breath. You're not alone, and you are enough, even if you don't believe it, as Marissa Peer would say. And as I say, things like EFT and stuff can help. There's loads and loads of things that can help us now. there is things that can change if you want to do that. My love, my blessings, and my heart goes out to people that have lost people. I was lucky my mum's suicide attempts didn't amount to actual suicide, but I know and have friends who have lost people to suicide. So generally, this is why one of the reasons this month, connecting with energetic, we've got lots going on. People might be feeling it and might not be able to say, they might not used to be saying. So a smile at the person, the guy that's having a bad day, you might want to go, don't want to be around that energy, but just breathe. I'm not saying take the emotional bullying, but maybe just a breath for you to think that person might be having a crap day. I'm not going to add to that. That person at the checkout who's being rude, maybe she's had 5 other people be rude to her and she's just kind of whatever. Just little actions of kindness to ourselves and to others can really go a long way and send ripples. Thank you for your time, and thank you for hearing and compassionately witnessing my story. I am very grateful to who I am, for the experiences in my life, and to where I am now. Spend a moment to be grateful. Oh, we didn't do the meditation. Let's spend that moment now. Just breathe. Just breathing. Whatever thoughts come up for you, just let them be. And I think if you're not used to meditating, this would help to just use a count of 4. So breathing in, 3, 4, hold if you can, just for a moment, or for 4 if you can, and then out, 2, 3, 4, in, that simple. And if you want to join me for a longer meditation, I run a free guided meditation every Monday on my YouTube channel live. Currently the Q&A in Zoom is suspended, but that will take place again next year. But you're welcome. It's free or donation based. If you go to Eventbrite, you can book the ticket and have the link sent direct to your inbox. Details on my page on Love Authentic Me, or on my Instagram. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And remember, it's never as bad as what it seems. What's that saying I heard recently from the confidence lady? I'll add in the books. What's the worst that could happen? It's if you do certain things. I know that doesn't always, it could be really bad. Makes you think though that it's not. The thing that I always think of is the ancient Persians had this saying, this too shall pass. Just breathe is what I always would do in those moments. Take care. Have a wonderful day.